Alright guys, we have some more type support EZA videos coming your way, and next up is the Extreme Int video, which is of course my boy Jeets once again. No dupes, couple links at level 2, literally 2 links at level 2, but no dupes. So again, seeing what he can do at the bare minimum. I do have him on a Vegeta's Family 200% lead from my margin Vegeta, and of course the new transforming Super Saiyan Vegeta as well, which I still wish I had, but we don't. So we do have enough int units on the team to trigger his guard in Vegeta and Trunks, big unit. SSB, which right now on global he's poo, but I mean in a few months time in the anniversary he becomes one of the best EZAs and one of the best units in the game again, so definitely a huge option for this. And of course Margin Vegeta himself. One thing I noticed immediately while building a team for my boy Jeets is what we start with: 122k, 73k defense. Yeah, kind of the norm of what we've been seeing. What I noticed with Jeets is, and again, this is all coming back to being an extreme class unit. I mean, you get a little bit more leeway with him because he is a Vegeta unit, he is a Saiyan. He does have a little bit of flexibility. 510k attacks, that 210k defense isn't too bad, especially considering he does have his guard active for 4 turns. But while he does have some leeway because naturally he's a Vegeta unit and naturally that makes him a Saiyan, he doesn't really have a team where he can fully utilize his extreme int support. So right now on this team, he's mainly utilizing his int types get key +3, attack and defense +10%. 2.85, I mean he does stack attack by 50% just like Gohan, which again is probably like one of the worst SA effects you could give these type support units. Like 50% attack and defense for the turn would have been much better. Which 10%, I mean in the grand scheme of things, it's better than nothing, right? But it's 10%, it's not going to change much. Like for the top units in the game, it's really not going to change hardly anything at all. I mean, for many units either. The key +3 though, that's good. I mean, there's some units that would work off of that very well. But the main meat of this unit is the additional attack and defense +50% for extreme int types. You combine it with that front bit, so that means extreme int units are getting key +3, attack and defense +60%. There's nowhere for you to really use that with Jeets. Like we saw it with Fizzboo. You're not going to be using the category teams he goes on. You know, he doesn't really have hardly any Fizz units, especially extreme Fizz units, to trigger his guard. But there is a big unit that can utilize his support in Boo tanks, and then any future EZAs and units that do come under the Fizz bracket on teams he goes on that can utilize it. But realistically, his teams just aren't good enough. Jeets can go on a very strong team, but there aren't any units to utilize his support. So, I mean, he is very usable because of that 4 turns of guard. Yes, some units can utilize the very small 10% support and the key +3, which is nice. And again, he can perform very well. He is viable, he is usable, which all of these support units are because of that same passive they all have. But, I mean, what these units are primarily here for, Jeets isn't giving them, because I said he hasn't got anyone to support with the extreme int support. So after stacking once, he's up to 183k attacks. That we can actually get him some int keys fizz. We're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 keys fizz in total. So 350% attack and defense, and we're getting 100% attack and defense per int keys fizz, which also means 50% crit chance. So for this turn, we're sitting on 1 million attacks that already off for 1 stack, which is good, and 279k defense again, while still having guard active, which is quite nice. Another thing that's really annoying about Jeets, and this doesn't really worry about it too much, because again, he's a slot 3 unit. He's there mainly to support, which unfortunately you can't really do with him, as I've been saying. He does have big bad bosses, which is a great link to have active. There's just not really a place for him to have big bad bosses active. Like, you're not going to have big bad bosses active here. I mean, 4.1 already though. There's Margin Vegeta, but he doesn't have big bad bosses. I mean, that would be a great unit for my boy Jeets to support, like himself, literally. But again, Margin Vegeta doesn't have big bad bosses. Then the other categories he goes on, Planet Namek Saga, you're not using that category. Pure Saiyans, I mean, as a 170 lead, he could slot them very nicely. Pure Saiyans is forever going to get buffed. There's some great units on this team. How many of them are going to be Extreme Int for you to trigger his support? How many Pure Saiyans units are going to have big bad bosses? Even, for example, Broly, who's an amazing unit, by the way, from the 9th anniversary. Even he doesn't have big bad bosses. Even if you were going to kind of somehow just shimmy a team together, not only do you not have... Well, not only would Broly not fall under the category of being, you know, an Extreme Int unit to utilize the support, but you wouldn't be able to trigger big bad bosses anyway. So you're missing out on a major link, which, I mean, considering what these units are used for, it's not the end of the world. It's actually not too bad. It would be nice to have big bad bosses active. But there's nowhere to utilize his Extreme Int support, which is like the biggest reason why you're using these units, is they're very good usable supports. But there's no Pure Saiyan big bad, like Pure Saiyan, not big bad bosses, but Pure Saiyan extreme class units under Extreme Int. Like, I mean, there's Margin Vegeta, but he's aged a bit, and that's only one. Not to mention, you need a few anyway to trigger his guard. And then, what's his other categories? Inhuman Deeds, Planetary Destruction. I mean, at one point, Planetary Destruction was in a good spot. I mean, also, Int Broly, EZA pending, but again, pending, keyword there. Even outside of him, what, Hirudegon maybe on Planetary Destruction? I mean, other than that, not really too many units you can utilize that support there with. Then there's Dragon Ball Seekers and Gifted Warriors. So, you know, while Jeets is pretty good, you know, while he is good, and he does have that flexibility because naturally he's a Saiyan unit, you know, you could put him on a Pure Saiyans team if you really wanted to under a 170 lead. He goes on the new Saiyan Day Vegetas category as well, which means he has a very good 200% lead. But you don't get to use the support that he has because there's just nowhere for him to use it. Even if you were to force him, even if you were to force a team together of extreme units or a team that had Extreme Int units, the units just aren't good enough at this point. Like, again, there's an EZA Broly pending, which I reckon he's going to be an amazing EZA because he has a great foundation. But that's one unit. Hirudegon makes two. Who's the third? Because there isn't one. I mean, maybe when there's a unit in the future, but right now, even on JP, right now, there's not really 3 Extreme Int units or too many Extreme Int units that can actually utilize this Vegeta support. But I mean, he's still usable, so he still goes on a very good 200 lead. If there's any EZA's new releases in the future that can utilize it, great. I mean, there's another Int unit that can utilize it literally this Friday in the Transforming Gotenks. But once again, that's a unit that will literally only take the 10% and key +3. In terms of the actual Extreme Int portion of his support, there isn't really a unit that's going to utilize it. And then he also has probably one of the worst SA effects, just like the Fizz Gohan support unit, in stacking attack by 50%, which, yeah, it's nice for them to do more damage and add up the extra numbers. But again, considering the reason why you're bringing these units, which is to sit in slot 3, support units, which Jeets doesn't really get to do, but other than that, passive's great. That SA effect isn't really going to be doing too much for him outside of that. As I said, 50% attack and defense would have worked a lot better. So it's a shame. I mean, being a Jeets unit, I'd probably want him to be the best, but you don't really have too many places to utilize his support. Yes, he goes on a good 200 lead, has a do SA effect. I don't really see myself or anyone getting much use out of him, which is a massive shame. You can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care, have a good rest of your day, and peace.